When I started from a little kid, I was playing trash can and buckets and paint tins, and we call it silly names, kettle drum and doo-doop and boom and all sorts of funny names they called them at the time. And it was, you know, the rhythm all the time. No kind of melodious song coming out of them except rhythmic patterns. And from 1935, 1937, 38, around 1938 I came into the picture, 37, 38. Because I saw some older guys playing the trash cans, and I was very intrigued with it all day. So I left school and I went on my father's backyard and I got one of the little trash cans and I started to beat on it. And by beating on it, I could observe I'm getting some of the same kind of rhythm as the other band was getting up the road. And by continuing this today now, all the bands around Port of Spain begin to play trash cans. Trash can. And one gentleman, I understand, I was not there, but I learned, and I always support that statement, that a guy by the name of Winston Simon is the first person that plays melody that comes from one of those cans. It was not what we have today, but was smaller, but he was playing a distinct melody. And the drums at the time was convex. What we have today is a basin. You know, the surface of the drum is a basin. But before that basin, the drums would push them on side, push them up like this. And instead of looking at a basin like this, it was like that. The top of the drum was surface, this kind of globe. And what they did at the time, I would do also. With that globe, we'll take boom handles and they will dent the top like that. And wherever you dent, you'll get a little song in there. And I saw another guy playing a melody also on the same kind of a top. And it was driving me crazy because they were getting the melody and I couldn't get it. So I said, how come they could get a melody on those convex and I can't do it? I get it in all kind of crazy way. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to sink the drum. And instead of putting a convex and a little dimple, I put a concave with a hump. So the concave, when you push the hump up, you could hit on the hump and control it.
See? I told you. It was in 1956 that I snagged enough money out of the family budget to pay for a trip down to Trinidad. I went down there with a camera, and it was like a new world. I'd never been outside, never been down to the West Indies before. And there was this island that was, well, it was a foreign country to me. You can see the pictures of it on the screen. I'll ask them to show the pictures we took. It's an island about 65 miles long, population about 500,000, and this is Port of Spain, the big city. About 200,000 people, size of Dayton, Ohio. But every year those narrow streets are jammed with hundreds of thousands of people, of course, dancing in the carnival parade. All dressed up in costumes. People save up for months to have money to buy the fanciest costume and compete for the first prize. And they go up one street and down the next and up another to the music of the steel bands. Like most cities, it has something of the old and the new. And look at this. It has an American movie, and right underneath, you see, it's an East Indian movie. There are several 100,000 East Indians, Muslims and Hindus on the island. I wandered around town with my camera. My kids stared at me curiously. People don't have much money down there, you know. $15 a week is a good job. And sometimes you think if it wasn't for sunlight and lots of cheap fruit, why, kids couldn't grow up so easy. These shots were taken in a little tenement house where I was visiting. This one faucet served a whole 100 families, that one faucet. But they were wonderful people. And I found some wonderful young men there who said, yes, they'd be willing to make me some steel drums. And I sat in their backyard for 2 days, 3 days, while they were hammering. And the leader of them is a man I want you to meet soon, because there's a story about it. You see, when we were down there, I was thanking him for making the drums, and listen to what he told me after I thanked him for making me the drums. 6 pans for me to take back to the United States. What I wanted to do is this. I want to, not just to thank you, because thanks is not enough for all the things that Trinidad has given the United States and the world, but I'd like to give you my pledge that wherever I go with these pans, I'll tell the true story of Trinidad as true as I can tell it. And as you know, I can only be here about 1 day more, but your pans will be playing, I hope, all through the United States.
Instead of taking up the pans, you take me up instead of the pans. Put me in the box instead of the pans. I and Renner could like to go upstate, you see?
Someday, we'll work towards it. Okay. Well, it came true. Kim Loy Wong was his name, and he saved up his money, and I and some others helped get the necessary papers signed, and a few years later, he came up. He lives in New York City now, and he had a champion prize steel band when he was down in the island, and in New York, too, he has a fine band. So I asked them to come on the program, but gosh, it's a huge band, and we didn't have space enough for them all, so he actually only has about a third of his band here. But I'm going to ask them all to come out now, and we'll see how these steel bands sound. So you stick around a minute. Tim Loy Wong, I'm so glad you came on the Rainbow Quest show. And I know this is only part of your band, but what is the name of the band?
The Highlanders.
And you're based in Manhattan, New York City?
Yes.
The Gay Desperados are by now accomplished television stars. Trinidad and Tobago Television is a commercial company part owned by the Thompson Organization. Most of the programs they put out are recorded shows bought from Britain or America. But West Indian performers are given as much opportunity as possible to appear on live home-produced programs.
Can you imagine a carnival without panorama? I can't. And for me, it all began here, with this beautiful view at the Laventille Hills, close to the Desperados. As a matter of fact, Desperados is my school. And this is where I learned most of the stuff that I have learned. And Rudolph Charles is very instrumental, God rest his soul, in having me where I am today as the top arranger in the land. Of course, I always thought I was, but I have just proved it with this little work that I have done. And Desperados, I have to say thank you for this. There are other things that I have to thank bands, different bands for. I worked with a lot of different bands, but the panorama thing cannot exist in soul by itself, because a lot of people are saying that panorama should be outside of carnival, and I cannot imagine a carnival without the panorama being attached to it. As a matter of fact, I try as far as possible to use a tune from one of the Calypsonians to work with. I mean, I can compose. I have done this before, and a lot of guys have done it. But I sort of feel better if I take a Calypsonian's tune, and especially I've done a lot of Kitchener. I've done Sparrow. I have done Shadow. I mean, you name it, I have done it. And one just has to look among the ranks and pick something which is suitable for your band, for the neighborhood, because people like tunes from their neighborhood, and the ability of the arranger, which is, you know, what you can use to get the thing out, the ability of the players. And you can do anything with anything.
Can we make a connection between the Road March and the panorama choice of tune?
Well, hitherto, you could have done that. But nowadays, I can't see myself doing 10 minutes of footsteps. You understand? I mean, I can do it because I have taken a tune which was at No Sleep, which everybody thought was impossible, and I have done it. But that was just a cheekiness on my part, sort of thing, you know. But I personally, I like to work with a tune that has meat. It has something to work with, you know. When I was doing Jammer, for example, a lot of people criticized the choice of Jammer, but Rudolph had told me, you know, there's a tune called Jam Something, to try it out, and I came, and Jammer was one of the best things I have done. You know, the tunes, and there are tunes, on the other end of the scale, there are tunes like Sugar for Pan, which I did with Pandemonium, which nobody has attempted, which was extremely difficult to do because of Terra's phraseology. He sings in a very strange way, you know. It's very syncopated. He sings lines and phrases, and he has accents where you don't expect them to be. So I had a lot of problems doing it with Pandemonium, seeing that they were kids. There's when the adult band like this, Desperados, or Tokyo, for example. But I had fun doing it because it is a challenge too. How am I going to teach the kids this type of phraseology, right? I had problems with Tokyo too because they were accustomed to a certain type of phraseology. Actually, it takes about 2 or 3 years for an arranger and the players to get used to each other's style so that they can execute the work. With Pandemonium, it took me 4 years to get success. With Desperados, it took me 3 years. With this band in Arima, New Tones, 3 years, 4 years. It takes about that time because it's not an ongoing thing all year round. Unfortunately, some of these bands, they're panorama bands, which is very sad because you can't expect a guy to come here and work with you for 2 months and be superb, not knowing who knows what and who can execute what. It's very difficult.
Thank you.
And he's the most prolific steel band writer of the steel band music. Kitch, you could remember that thing you did about the steel band?
Yeah,
remember?
that song is called The Beat of the Steel Band.
Right.
Yes, I heard the beat of a steel band, boy. Couldn't understand, it was hard to make a distinction between Paul and Bar 20 and John John. Tumbamba duba, doo, tumbamba duba, doo, tumbamba duba, doo, tumbamba duba, doo. Port of Spain, nearly catch a fire, and the band was crossing the dry river. Ziggy Lee, Pops and Brothers Lee. The whole world wants to hear you play. Everybody wants to hear more band. What is it about? We just can't find. I'm just about to say, I'm really bothered. Why do they have to play for such a short period? Every night, every day, people want to hear the steel band play. We want you for all the time, not just for today. Mama, let me hear you, give me night and day. The thing really starts you.
Yeah, it was kind of hard for me in the early days starting to play the instrument. My father, he's a Jehovah's Witness. He preaches on the pulpit, so more likely he's a minister. So it was kind of hard to convince him to accept having a son playing the instrument, which is our national instrument. But my dream came true because I was always longing to play the pan since I was about 7, 8 years. And it all started the late 1973, where Steve Achaiba, at that time he was the captain of Maritime Life Hatters. And he came around, he used to sell eggs and so on at those days, house to house. So knowing that I knew he was the captain of Hatters, begged him, talk to Dad, talk to my father, let him know that I want to learn to play. And he asked, he came back about 5, 6 different times, and then my father couldn't take it. He said, okay, I'll let him go to the Panya for a week. And that week is up to now, 1992, I still play.
So, what is your family like now about your career in band?
Well, they're very much into it. They love it tremendously. They see the determination in me. Because unlike a lot of other people, a lot of other probably, so to speak, bandmen and arrangers, I'm not really a competitor. I get to love it so much that I want to really see it grow. And not really grow in Trinidad only, but internationally, all over the world. So I get tremendous support from my mother, my father, especially my sister, my biggest sister, Antoinette. And I just hope it and praying hard to God that it could be recognized and respected as another international instrument. Not as a phenomenal thing just for carnival alone, and people see it for calypso, or people put pan with calypso, and No, it's an instrument that could play anything, you know, and this is one of my aims and dreams. Well, I am very close to God because I really can't explain what I do. I go with vibes. And I am a spiritual. I baptized about 8 years now, you know, and I'm very, very close to the Master because I believe without him there's nothing.
The festival is an important proving ground for the Desperados, who haven't entered in 20 years. In that time, innovative young bands like Phase 2 Pangru and players with formal musical training have raised the festival's standards. The competition has become increasingly fierce. To have a fighting chance, Desperados have recruited a talented conductor and arranger, Pat Bishop.
What you saying? It's 8 people. It existed really before I knew anything as a tough band. Tough in the way, in the lifestyle. Tough in terms of the way in which the community organized its business. The community is very much part of the band, and the band reflective of the community. And also superb players.
All 47 musicians show up for the last practice before the festival. After months of hard work, they have one more chance to get it right.
Kurt, let me hear you. You playing this part? All right, let me hear it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. The festival is that it is the time that the bands play classical music. I think it's important to know that classical music wasn't thrust upon steel bands. I think that in their search for legitimacy, ever since the 1940s, steel bands have been choosing to play classical music to, let us be truthful, the scandal of the middle classes, who considered that that was a kind of travesty, that they really should stick to playing calypsos or street music or whatever.
I came from a very poor family and I couldn't afford another instrument, another musical instrument. So that was a free opportunity to go into a steel band and have the use of the pans free and gain a lot of knowledge within the band. So I mean, I am a pan man in the true sense that I really got everything from there. Before the competition, before I enter the panyard, I have a plan. It's like a foundation that I know this is what I want to do. Some of the parts write them at home. Some of it do it in the panyard because you get that feel sometimes. Or on the spot, you see something missing that you have to do on the spot. Or some people might come and make a comment and say, you know, this phrase, I don't think it's sounding too well. Some of the members might say, we want a little jam, as they say here. So on the spot I do a lot of that. I listen all type of music, do all types. Like, I work with Renegades, which is a big orchestra, so I try some big orchestra music, and then with my personal Samo Jets band, I do other type of music, chamber.
Concerts, more years, and so on. Then I saw a brochure for the U.S. Navy Steel Band to be doing a concert in Crystal Lake High School. So I went up there, talked to the director of the group, because his instruments were much higher quality. I said, where did you get these? Who made them for you? He said, we have them built by this fellow named Cliff.
A lot of us wanted to get out of Trinidad. We were standing near the office like this where they have the selection process, and we don't know what's going on, and says to my buddies, I said, I'm going home to sleep. So I went home to bed, and 6 o'clock in the morning they woke me up and says, your name is on the radio. You're going to the States. When I first came here, I didn't have a source. So I went to different places.
I'm leaving my office for lunch, and I see a gentleman sitting in my lobby. I walk out, and Cliff is sitting in his relaxed position in a barrel chair, and I says, are they taking good care of you? And he said, oh yes, I'm here. As you're making a pickup? He says, yes. I says, for who? I know most of my customers. I'm not a giant corporation. I know kind of where all the drums are going. He says, Northern. I says, Northern Chemical, Northern Oil, I have a lot of Northern accounts, And he says, no, Northern Illinois University. So we get, what's that for? He starts telling me the story, how he liked my drums when he was in Minnesota. When he came here, he saw that Trilla was here in Chicago. So he's been coming down buying drums from us when he raised the money. So I went back, and my customer service man was named Kevin. I said, Kevin, give him his money back. We'll donate him to the school. Well, the next week he came back with a truck. No more a car with 1 or 2 drums in the car.
And I said, by the way, we're having a concert next week. You should come. He says, well, I'm going to Italy, and I'll be back Sunday. So I says, well, you should still come. Sunday, I'm standing in front of the concert hall, and he's there.
So I roamed all through this building, opened up doors, hearing all sorts of people practice. I didn't know where my steel drum was. And I walked up and I saw, opened up the auditorium, and it's like unbelievable. 100 steel drums, red steel drums on stage with the spotlights and kids, and standing room only. And I walked in, and I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. So I'm standing up there, and he caught me, and so, as you said, I went up on stage and talked to him, and I said, I gotta be part of this. This is something. And so
he's brought me up, introduced me to Leon, who was just phenomenal young artist. Very humble young lad. And I said, I got to be part of this. And Cliff looked at me, he says, well, he can't come back next year. And I looked at him, I said, son, you're coming back. I'll take care of your education. And the rest is history.
It's out of, what's the word? Necessity that I became a pan tuner and taught myself how to make this instrument that I'm hearing is so complex to do.
It is.
Right. And I prevailed, but with a lot of hard work, a lot of sleepless nights, and a lot of times anyone wants to be that way 24/7. You know, when I started to build and tune pans and whatever they get, I started in the morning, going till in the night, neglecting my kids at times, you know, because I wanted to learn this craft. How many people, you know, would want to do that?
Nowadays, I don't know.
You know?
Well, even back in the day too.
I never started out to want to sell pans. I started out wanted just to be able to service what I had and keep the program I was working at going. That's what I wanted to do. And it blossomed without me even saying a word or putting myself in any form of advertisement or any magazines or anything like that, because I was scared to do that. And somebody called me for an instrument and I can't deliver. So I had to work on my own. This room here was another good room for me. Could come in here in 1986, inside of this room. You know, I learned a lot inside of this room. A lot. Night and day in this room. You know. That's, for want of a better word, or groove. And people still don't understand what groove is. But, oh, you're not grooving. Could you groove too? You know what I'm saying? You know, you can. So, like, I know you guys don't have time, but a lot of times we used to sit on in the pioneer. I was going through the same 8 bars till you want to die. And you know what I'm talking about. Same 8 bars over, and it's going on right now. Because Panorama is in the air. I used to go around bands in Trinidad. I stopped at one band. I said, listen, you see where they are right now? Let's go to band B, band C, band D, and come back to band A. I said, you see what I told you? They're the same place, same 16 bars. And how what's going? You as a musician will say, what the hell is going on here? Same 16 bars? And the guy something is not playing right in certain part of the strum pattern. He won't stop the band and says, well, let's work on that little area there. Let's start again. And I'm saying, you didn't work on that area, but you want to start again. And you have a different air.